Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. More than ever, while we've been home during this coronavirus, we have watched the political landscape of America change. The global climate change and socialism and globalism and communism is rearing its head in a more profound way than in any other previous time in our history. Conservatism is being redefined. The Bible, if even referenced, is no longer the foundation upon which America is built. Here to talk about what's going on in America today is Joe Newby of ConservativeFiringLine.com. Joe is a 10-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps who wrote for Examiner.com for 6 years. His articles have also appeared on Newsbusters, Spokane, Faith and Values, and other sites. He currently runs the Conservative Firing Line, where he discusses issues important to conservatives. He's the co-author of Banned: How Facebook Enables Militant Islamic Jihad, and appears here on Revealing the Truth on the first Monday of every month at 12 o'clock p.m. Here to bring us up to date on this edition of basically America Gone Wild is Joe Newby.
Joe, good morning, Eric. How are you doing this fine day?
I'm doing great, man. We've missed you. We've missed seeing you.
I've missed you guys as well. How'd things go on your trip?
We didn't go. It got canceled. We were the first trip, the first tour to Israel that got canceled. We were Lufthansa notified us first, and I had 50 very, very disappointed and upset people.
I'll bet.
And they've basically, Lufthansa has ceased all regular operations, so we can't even find out where's our money.
Yeah.
That's
sad.
And if they're going to come out of it, because this is for the transportation industry, this has been a devastating hit. And
yes, it has.
You're in the banking business, so you know when the big bank bailout came, there was a lot of banks that went away. There was great consolidation in banking. I don't know if that's going to happen with the airline industry or not, but it's certainly going to have an economic impact.
Well, I know when that first stimulus relief and the loans for businesses came out, we were busy for quite a while. It kept us on our toes. But I consider myself grateful to be working though. So I'm not complaining.
Right.
The hours are a bit rough, but hey, I am not complaining. I'm happy to be working, Eric. I really am.
Joe, one of the things I want to get from you is your team at Conservative Firing Line is certainly Adina, who is a Zionist and conservative. You've got Alan West. You've got Rusty Weiss and Alicia Luke. You've got a whole team of contributors. What is the consensus view from the really conservative, truth-telling community of this COVID-19, and why? And I'm going on the assumption that it was laboratory created, it is man-made. What was the agenda behind it that you've been able to discover, and what impact is, it's one thing to do it for a reason, to advance a cause. This is, and to me, it's an act of virile terrorism.
Right.
And it's to advance. It took me back to 1968, 1969, when a lot of us carried a copy of Mao's Red Book. If you remember that, Joe. That,
I do.
There were a number of quote-unquote hippies that were much more leaning than most. And of course, that's where the Black Panthers, the White Panthers, SDS, and all that grew out of that. And that was a handbook. So
Right.
What's the handbook? What's the playbook for this? I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, I can tell you this. One of my contributors, a fellow who has joined us fairly recently, and in fact, I'm not sure that we've spoken since he came on board, but he has written not only some very insightful articles about the issue of the COVID-19, but he has also published a book, which is now on Amazon. His name is Dr. Joel S. Holmes, and he's an engineer. He has worked in this for some time. He put out a book where he suggests, based upon the evidence that he has been able to gather, that this coronavirus could quite possibly turn out to be an actual biological weapon. And he came out and said that this thing originated in Wuhan, and he has been pounding that home ever since. And in fact, Eric, he was doing it long before anyone else ever did. In fact, he was talking about this being the case way back when the first casualties started showing up here in the United States. We're talking back in January. He was talking this, and of course, back then, at that point in all of this, you were considered a racist, sexist, homophobe, right-wing, fundamentalist bigot, and I say that in that way purposefully. If you dared put Corona and Wuhan and China together in the same paragraph. But he was saying this long before it was politically correct for anyone else to do so. And now, of course, everyone is jumping on the bandwagon. It's like, oh, gee, all of a sudden, they've discovered what readers of the conservative firing line would have known back in January, thanks to Dr. Holmes, and I commend him for his foresight and for his work in this. He's written several articles. He's not quite as prolific a writer as myself or Faye or some of the others, but his work has been, in my opinion, groundbreaking, and I would recommend that anybody going to conservative firing line look up his articles. His name is Dr. Joel S. Holmes. He has written a couple of books, one of them specifically on this. In fact, he was one of the first, in my opinion, to come out and suggest, again, based on the evidence he could collect at the time, which has not yet been disproven, but he was one who came out and suggested that this does indeed sound like and look like and quacks like and talks like a biological weapon. I think it was Adina who followed up a little bit later, I'm pretty sure it was, with a post talking about how the Chinese were talking as far back as 2005, I believe, about cleaning up America. And how would they do this? Of course, it would be done in part through a biological vector disease, if you will, something that would affect our economy in such a way that we would have to do exactly what we're doing right now. And which is, of course, putting a kibosh on the entire economy. And this is something that really bothers me, Eric. You and I have both been around long enough that we have both experienced pandemics before. Mm-hmm. Okay? We remember SARS. We remember MERS. We remember H1N1, or as Joe Biden says, N1H1. The Hong Kong flu. You remember the bird flu. I think that was also back in the 60s, about the time of the little red book you were talking about.
I remember polio.
Yes.
Before there was a polio vaccine.
Right. And you know what, Eric? I don't recall a single instance. All of these pandemics killed more people, hospitalized more people than COVID-19 ever has. Okay? these other pandemics affected more people than this one has. But we didn't shut down the economy.
Right.
Okay, we didn't. uh, we didn't put 30 plus million people out of work. We didn't effectively suspend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to deal with it. The medical folks dealt with it, and we moved on. And another thing too is that we didn't have the constant nattering from the 24-hour, 7-day a week CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, frightening everybody into this panic and causing the problems they're causing now. So this is a case. I think President Trump did the right thing when he banned travel from China. I think that was the number one biggest thing that he did to keep this nipped in the bud. I honestly believe that if he had not have done that, things would have been a whole lot worse in this country than it is now. But we had more people killed during these other pandemics than COVID-19. But I don't recall. Maybe you can correct me. I don't recall hearing the media going after whoever the president was at the time. Be it Richard Nixon or whomever, Barack Obama. I don't recall seeing the media whipping up the kind of frenzy that it is now, and I certainly don't recall Democrat governors like this clown out of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, putting out ridiculous orders, stripping us basically of our constitutional rights. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I missed something. But I don't recall that being the case.
No, there was not anything in my lifetime. Polio was only politicized because of FDR.
Right.
It was just simply a matter of a connection point that we had a president that had polio.
Right.
Other than that, in my lifetime, starting from 1952 to present, no virus, flu, other than HIV/AIDS, has been politicized as much, and even HIV/AIDS was not politicized the way
No.
that the COVID-19 virus has been politicized.
And it makes me want to scream out. CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, all these other Democrat Party propaganda outlets makes me want to scream out this little phrase you taught me before, before we came on air. Seriously, it really does.
Well, the Hebrew phrase is "sheket bavakasha," meaning just shut up already. It's just enough with everything being. I don't even do my commentaries on my prophecy where I do a 10 to 15 minute monologue.
Right.
I don't even talk about the virus. I'm saying, listen, enough already. Everybody's talking about it. There's things in the kingdom that are much more important that are happening in God's economy than what's happening in whether or not you should wear a mask, whether or not it's this contagion, are people dying. Look, my 94-year-old mother, she won't go out. Okay, she's 94. She would go out to play golf, but she can't find somebody to go with her and talk to or share a cart with, and she can't walk that carrying her bag, so she's not going to play golf. But other than that, we didn't miss a beat. We didn't stop broadcasting. You didn't stop working. There's a whole sector of life that went on. Did you have anybody at your bank that you work at? You work overnight. That was hit with the virus?
No, actually, the bank I work for was very proactive from the beginning. I think, and I'm not just saying this because I work for them, but they were very proactive, and they set it up straight away so that anybody and everybody who could worked from home. And because of my network connection where I live, I was unable to do that. Anybody who's watched our programs has probably seen, the interruptions that we get here when you and I are talking. It gets twice as bad late at night, and if I'm in the middle of an incident, I can't afford to have that happen. It just won't work. So I make the drive into Spokane. I don't mind doing that. That's okay. But the vast majority of the people who work in my department and a lot of other departments work online. They commute from home. And we've been able to take care of our customers. We've been able to continue working. We've been able to continue serving the community the way that we have. And I think that's due to the leadership of the bank where I'm at. They were very, very proactive when this thing first came out. So we didn't get caught flat-footed. I mean, we were prepared. We had a plan in place, and we were able to trip the plan and continue operating. So we were fortunate in that regard. But to my knowledge, nobody working for us has caught this virus. To my knowledge, I have not heard of anyone who has. Of course, there are thousands of people who work for us, so it's possible somebody might have and been asymptomatic, but I'm not aware of anybody who has. But we've been able to function. Sure, there were challenges, at first, and there still are. There always will be. That's the nature of the beast. But we were able to continue functioning. So, that's us, and I know other banks have been able to do the same. But what really gripes me, though, Eric, is some of these shutdown orders make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Explain to me, for example, how it is that it's okay in a particular state for people to go to Planned Parenthood for an abortion, but yet they can't go to church to celebrate Easter Sunday,
Right.
even if they're sitting out in their car with the windows rolled up and listening to it on the radio. How does that compute? How is it that we have a police officer telling a black pastor down in Mississippi, guess what? Your rights have been suspended. This is the kind of nonsense we have going on right now. And you have governors like this Gretchen Whitmer out of Michigan telling people that if they have two homes, they can't drive from one residence to the other. What's up with that? Telling them that they can't buy seed for their yard, telling them that if they go to the lake, they can use a rowboat but not a motorboat. How does that compute, Eric? I don't get it. Is there a special clause somewhere in the Constitution that I missed that said all of these provisions are null and void in case there's a pandemic? Did I miss that in my education somewhere? I'm just curious.
The whole logic behind so much of this escaped me.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, all I hear is overreach, remnants of hearing in the back of my head the sound PayPals. You have PayPals?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Scenes from my family's life. making their way to America, traveling through Eastern Europe to get out, hiding in places and doing what they had to do. It's not the American way.
It's not, but that's what we're turning into, and that's what frightens me. Is that's exactly what's going to start happening. You've got this governor, for example, like I said, Gretchen Whitmer out of Michigan, and look at the crazy stuff she's done. And the legislature is saying, wait a minute. You're doing this all on your own. We need to be part of this process as well. You've got protesters peacefully exercising, I might add, their First Amendment constitutional right to gather and to demand a redress of grievances from the government. And what does Whitmer do? She goes on to fake news CNN, and her and Jake Tapper are yucking it up, and they're comparing these protesters to Nazis. They're all racist. They're all flying Confederate flags. They're, this, that, and the other. And I looked at that video, and I didn't recall seeing a single swastika in that crowd.
Nope.
And there were people who were open carrying their firearms, but again, they have a Second Amendment right to do so, and they broke no law in carrying their weapon. And no one was hurt, no one was shot, there was not a single incident of anyone pulling their gun and shooting somebody. But now you have Joy Behar, I'm sorry, well, Joy Reid too. She's part of this whole propaganda machine. But Joy Behar over on The View saying protesters carrying weapons are all terrorists. That's her word. And saying that anybody who engages in these protests should sign away their rights to medical treatment. Where are we living, Eric? What's up with all this?
There's been dialogue about after a certain age, treatment should be withheld. Now, you're talking about genocide. You're talking about senioricide. I grew up in Pittsburgh, which has one of the longest living Jewish communities in the world. It's like the average age of the aging Jewish population, people are dying between 96 and 103.
Wow.
So my mother being 94 is a young woman.
Right. Gotcha.
She's been to many 100-year-old birthday parties, been to many 105-year-old birthday parties, and we're solid Eastern European, hardy stock that has survived everything the Russians have thrown against us, everything the Germans and the Prudo-Russian Empire tried to heap on us for hundreds of years. We survived all that. So we're just a long-living community, and people are in their 90s and 100s. And like every city in America, everybody there dies in alphabetical order, which I find is a phenomena in every city. Of course, that's what they do. They put the obituaries in alphabetical order. The whole idea of anybody saying if you're over 75 and you are COVID-19 positive, don't give them a ventilator, give it to a younger person because this person's already had a full life. When we start passing, that's now reverse. That's the other side of abortion, which when we allowed for abortion, we then also began to open up the door for Kevorkian and for legalized assisted suicide. And now we have what? A board who's going to decide on whether or not we're going to withhold medical treatment because somebody has hit a certain age?
Well, unless you happen to live in Gretchen Whitmer's Michigan, then I could, that is the kind of thing I could almost see her doing. And remember, it was Mike Bloomberg, former mayor of New York City, who suggested that very thing while visiting with the family of a rabbi who died. What? That was one of his things. Well, if you're 95, then maybe we should just say, yep, nice, you lived a nice long life. Maybe we should just withhold treatment. Blah blah blah.
It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. But we're going to talk more about it on the other side of break. We're talking with Joe Newby. You can follow him at conservativefiringline.com. He is in the blogosphere and brings a biblically sound worldview to a Christian conservative platform that uncovers a lot of what's happening in America, and you can identify and make sense of it as you can with some other reliable sites. There are not a lot, unfortunately, of reliable media outlets out there. Fortunately, the Conservative Firing Line is one of them, and we bring them to you because of that. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue to talk about what the government should do in response to China, the second largest landowner in the United States. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitingnation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Joe Newby of the conservativefiringline.com, a conservative blog that you can find at that address, conservativefiringline.com. It'll be at the bottom of your screen. Joe, welcome back.
Good to be back with you, Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Joe. I was actually mistaken that in 2018, China were big in the United States real estate market, but have since scaled back.
Yes, they have.
And pulled out. At one point, they were holding 9.1% of our debt, almost 10% of our debt. But now that's been reduced to 5% of our debt. So they really don't have the stranglehold that I thought that they had on the government, which makes it all the more important. But there is to have some kind of sanctions. However, we also have companies like Apple and Amazon and Google and a number of companies that use China because of their population, which is 3 times larger, I think, than the United States, or 5 times larger.
Yeah, much bigger than
much bigger than the United States. So the population of China is from a market perspective, consumer market, is extremely important to American business. The population of China is 1.4 billion in 2017, and so that's worth like 350 million. So they're about
you're talking about a 400% difference between us and them.
Exactly,
400 to 500%.
So,
but you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
How do we respond? It's not like in Iran, where they're not a part of our economic backbone. We're not dependent upon Iran for anything. We can cut them off, and everybody's fine. We cut off China, and all of a sudden there's sanctions going back and forth, and tariffs going back and forth, and consumer markets that are going back and forth. And I agree that we have become over-dependent on cheap Chinese labor and cheap Chinese products. And that nobody has anything on their desk that it doesn't have at least something that says made in China on it. Made in America used to be back in the day when I think it was Ford, where they showed the guy that his name was written on the inside of a fender, and they showed it that they took pride in America. That's one of the things that's done, is driven the economy back, which was a part of the Trump agenda, saying I'm going to bring jobs back home. Now that means the economy has to be opened back up. We have a window. This is May. This is May the 4th. We have exactly 6 months to Election Day. Is COVID-19 going to be a referendum on the election that is 5 months and 1 week from tomorrow?
That's a very fair question, Eric, and I'm glad you asked it. In my opinion, the Democrats will do everything they can to make it a referendum on Donald Trump. On the other hand, I think the millions of us who supported Trump from the beginning, and who see what the Democrat Party has done over the last 3-4 years, and who see what the mainstream media have done, and who see what big tech has done, won't view it so much as a referendum against Donald Trump. I think they will see it as a way to motivate the base. We are the Trump supporters that I communicate with, and what I see online on social media. There is a palpable anger out there. People are flat fed up. They are fed up with the Democrat Party. They are fed up with the propaganda machine known as the mainstream news media, and I use that term loosely. I've gotten to the point now I call it the Democrat media complex because, in my view, that's what it is. Um, the people who work for them, who call themselves reporters, in my view, are not much more than propagandists, period. They're willing propagandists. Um, and so people are seeing this. They are waking up. And they're seeing these Democrat governors issue these dictatorial edicts. They see the propaganda, the blatant propaganda, I might add, being put out by the media, CNN, MSNBC, all of them, New York Times, you name it. They see the blatant double standard, like with Joe Biden and this Tara Reade accusation. Now there's a girl who at the time was 14, who has also come out and said that Joe Biden made a very inappropriate comment to her regarding parts of her body. And people see this, and they see the way the media, they see the way the same exact people treated Justice Kavanaugh during his confirmation hearings, and they see these very same people come out and say, "Oh, that's just Joe. You know, he's just like that." Hogwash. People are fed up, and what I'm seeing online, Eric, is a palpable anger. People are ready to pick up pitchforks and torches, and they're ready to start burning the house down.
Okay,
Seriously.
Let me throw a hypothesis out there. Had it not been for the COVID-19 shutdown that began in January with the announcement, we would be full on in our 5th month of deep state dismembering. We would be prosecuting the likes of the James Comeys, prosecuting the likes of Hillary Clinton, prosecuting the likes of Barack Obama, prosecuting the likes of Bill Clinton for his tarmac meeting, prosecuting the likes of Loretta Lynch for her tarmac meeting, prosecuting the likes of Susan Rice, prosecuting the likes of Lurch, that former Secretary of State John Kerry for violation of the Logan Act.
Who, by the way, served in Vietnam. Let's not forget that.
That's right. All those things would have full life to them and be in full force under the auspices of Bill Barr, who is a bulldog of a prosecutor and a attorney general, that everything was set in place for the removal of Jeff Sessions to put in somebody that was action-oriented. And bam, the minute that the end of the Mueller investigation, the minute that the whole investigation and impeachment proceeded ended, something had to happen to distract America to the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase that would keep them riveted for hours and distracted by everything else in the world. And all of a sudden, COVID-19 becomes the issue du jour, and the government comes to a screeching halt. Courts are closed and not scheduled to reopen until June or July. That means that all these investigations, which are not going to make it to the floor of the House, are not going to make it to the floor of the Senate, are not going to make it to a special prosecutor, are not going to be able to convene a grand jury in time to have convictions before the November 10th election. All of that was pushed off the agenda because of this glorified response to COVID-19.
I'll go even one further than that, Eric. What was Donald Trump doing while the House managers were wrapping up their impeachment case? Donald Trump was responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. His eye was on that ball. Remember, he addressed it during the State of the Union speech, the one that Nancy Pelosi tore up. Okay? He addressed it. He was dealing with it while the Democrats were trying to run him out on a sham coup impeachment. And that's all it was. It was an attempted coup d'etat. Everybody's attention was focused on impeach, impeach, impeach. You had Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Gerald Nadler, all of them. What were they doing? One lie after another, after another, after another. Okay? What was Trump doing? He was looking at the problem. He was addressing the COVID-19 pandemic before it was even news. Before it became newsworthy, he was addressing it. And the Democrats, and now you have Pelosi out there defending, prioritizing impeachment over this pandemic.
Right.
And what were they doing while Trump was taking action? They were trying to enact a coup d'etat against him. Period. End of sentence. And then all of a sudden, when that, you're right, it's amazing. All of a sudden, when that didn't work, well, hey, we got this other crisis. And what do we hear one Democrat after another say? We've heard it from Hillary Clinton. We've heard it now from James Clyburn. We've heard it from others. This pandemic is a way to do what? A way to enact their radical change. And that's basically what they have said. This is a way for us to enact our agenda. Remember when that first stimulus package went through? And who was it that held it up? It was Nancy Pelosi. Why did she hold it up? Because she wanted to put in billions upon billions upon billions for this radical agenda, that radical agenda, Green New Deal, vote by mail. The same party that lost 35,000 emails on Hillary Clinton's so-called secure server now want to do vote by mail. No. So that's what is happening, and people are seeing this, Eric. It's because of sites like ours. It's because of programs like yours. It's because of independent people who are not part of that propaganda machine, who are outside that whole complex, and they're looking at this other stuff and they're saying, wait a minute, this isn't adding up. Okay? You're giving me an apple and an orange, and I'm supposed to walk away with a banana? How does that work?
It speaks to the hive mentality. It speaks to the overall, we're here from the government and we're here to help you, and it's just unfortunate. Joe, I'm going to need to cut the interview short. Unfortunately, something has come up, but we are going to see you right back here next month on the first Monday of the month, as we do every month at the 12 o'clock hour. You can follow Joe at conservativefiringline.com, and I encourage you to read and follow these contributors, and you are going to get to the bottom of the truth behind the news. Joe Newby, thank you, my friend. Always good to see you. Many blessings on you. I appreciate you so very much. I'll see you next month.
Sounds good, Eric. God bless. Take care, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.